All right, what's going on, YouTube? We're back for another episode of talking about Bitcoin. So today I wanted to go over a couple other things. One of the main questions I think people are gonna have is, when do I sell my Bitcoin? And I wanted you to go over that. I feel like that's a big question that people should know about, like your opinion at least.
Yeah, so I mean, when to sell Bitcoin? It's a huge question for a lot of people because you invested some money, whatever you could afford to lose, and now it's become something that you might not be able to afford to lose. Like, you invested $5 grand and now it's worth 50. Maybe your life you can't lose that 50 grand, so you're gonna want to take some off the table. And so the main thing that a lot of people have to realize, especially where you live, like if you live in California, then we got to pay an extra 12% state income tax just for living in California. If you've owned the asset for less than a year, then you've got to pay an extra like 12% tax. So just off taxes alone, if you sell your Bitcoin at any time, you create a taxable event on your capital gains. So if you think you made $5 grand, you actually probably only made like 2.5, maybe 3. And so you really want to avoid selling for as long as possible. Bitcoin is a store of value. So if it can improve your life in any way, shape, or form, like a down payment on a house, so you don't have to worry about rent or mortgage for a while, then yeah, by all means. If that will improve your life, then that's a great time to sell Bitcoin. Another time would be if it goes parabolic, and if in the next amount of time you see, from a technical standpoint, it's gotten way too far away from the moving averages, it's gone straight up, and we've all seen it. Every time it goes straight up, it comes back down. And so anytime you have a moment of like, oh my God, I made so much money, this is crazy, you should probably sell a little bit. And I don't mean sell your entire amount. You should DCA, dollar cost average, in and out. Buy a little bit every single day, and then as it's rising and it gets to a point where you're like, okay, I can't afford to lose this, start taking some off the table. Even if it's just $100 a day, you're just taking it off the table. And every time you do that, you're creating another taxable event, so you have to plan for that. And if you have a lot of Bitcoin, then it gets to a point where you can actually never sell your Bitcoin. You just borrow against it. You tell a bank, I have a Bitcoin, it's worth $100,000. Well, they will give you a loan, and you can use that money from the loan to live. And that loan will be usually a certain percent fixed rate, 2%, 3%, 4% from whatever bank you get it from. But as long as that fixed rate is lower than Bitcoin is appreciating in value, which is on average 100% a year, then you can just continuously borrow against your Bitcoin and really just keep getting money from that to live your life and do what you need to do, and never actually sell. Because you don't get taxed on your debt, but you do get taxed every time you want to make a sale and you want to make any money. And so that, I'd say, is one of the most important things that people have to understand, is you really shouldn't ever sell your Bitcoin. You're trying to accumulate this, but if you need to, if it will change your life in a beneficial way, then by all means, it's a store of value. If you need to use that value to buy something else that has value, then go for it. But you don't really want to try to time the markets, because TD Ameritrade did this study between, I think it was like 2012, 2013, but they looked at their best performing customers, and they found that the majority of their best performing customers were all dead because they couldn't touch their assets. They couldn't try and time it. They couldn't try and sell it. And so I thought it was hilarious. It was like, oh, all the best winners are all the ones that were dead. And so also the same thing could be said for Bitcoiners, is most of the Bitcoin millionaires that are, activating these addresses that haven't been touched in 5-10 years, a lot of them, they went to jail. They got arrested, went to they participated in Silk Road, they bought a whole bunch of Bitcoins back when they were pennies, and they went to jail for 5 or 10 years, and the government could take all their dollars away, but they couldn't access their Bitcoin. And so finally, when they get out of jail 5-10 years later, their Bitcoin has gone up in value by like almost 100%, maybe 1,000%
or more percent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whatever they invested now is worth, it's got 2 zeros on the end.
Or more.
Exactly. And so now these guys, it's the safest thing to do is just to never touch it, to never sell. And you'll be better off, because Bitcoin is just exploding in value every single year. As more and more people start to buy it and put value behind it, it's just going to keep going up. Yes, it's volatile, but if you zoom out onto a bigger time frame, this thing is going straight up.
Right. I feel like that's going to be a topic on a lot of these videos, the adoption of Bitcoin. The more that people, accept it as something of a store of value, that the more it's going to keep continuously going up and probably won't ever stop.
And that's why people are buying gold. That's why people are buying bonds. Is because they think it's a better way to store their money than just keeping cash in the bank.
Yeah, but slowly people are realizing that it's not.
There's an alternative.
Yeah, it's way better.
It's starting with the ones who want to gamble, and it's moving to the ones who want to invest, which is still a gamble, but it's just a safer form because they have more reason. It's not just like betting red or black on a roulette table. You actually have a reason to believe this is going to move in this direction.
Right.
And so for that reason alone, it's not just a 50-50. The risk to reward ratio on Bitcoin, it's like almost once in a lifetime. It might fail. You might lose everything. Something might happen. It might go back to zero. I don't see that happening, but something might. Something I can't foresee. A black swan event, World War III. Who knows what it's going to be? But for the most part, it's going to remain strong. It's going to keep gaining 100% on average every year, and it's not stopping. It's not slowing down.
So don't ever sell, is what you're saying.
Not unless you have to.
Not
unless you have to. Everyone wants to, make their millions and, buy your Lambo and your nice house and go on your trips and everywhere. But, that why spend money on these things that, they don't earn you anything? You should be taking your money and buying things that earn you more money. I know that's
or at the very least, buy something that makes you money and use that money that you're making off that money to go spend on whatever it is.
Don't buy a Lambo, rent the Lambo.
Have that money still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is how the rich stay rich, is by avoiding paying taxes.
That too.
You make $1 million on crypto, you have to give half to Uncle Sam. That's just. I'm starting to look at alternatives. Like, what country can I move to not have to give $500,000 to Uncle Sam?
At the very least, what state?
Exactly.
California,
just moving to Nevada or Texas or Florida or Oregon, like a state with no state income tax.
Yeah.
If you have $1 million in earnings in crypto, you got to give 12% just because you live in California.
Yeah. And then there's the other taxes
Saves
on
you
top
an
of
extra $120,000 a year, or just off that one trade.
Yeah.
Because you're in California or not.
Right.
And so that, taxes play a huge role in this entire game. People have to understand. It's not just selling. You're selling and you make money off that, you're going to get taxed heavily.
Alright. So don't sell your Bitcoin.
Ever.
Ever. Yeah, I think that we're going to call it a night. YouTube, stay tuned. We got more content coming as far as Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, all of the above. Do you want to talk about stocks in the future too, or do you just want
to talk about anything you guys want to talk about?
All right, let's do it. All right, so stay tuned, you guys. We're gonna have some more content coming soon.
Eyes open.
You already know what it is.